Hi, I'm just making a short video here to share how AI and humans easier can read your code and get through it faster and get less dependencies and using internal namespaces and APIs. APIs is most commonly used like application interfaces, but I use API in this context to denominate the point of contact of any other part of the systems or modules. So I structure my code into multiple modules when I then group up to a system, and then each system is connecting to other systems. And the reason why we do this is because otherwise we get dependencies all over the place and it's very hard to change. The biggest problem with code is not so much to develop it, but to change it. And therefore, it's very important to keep it changeable. So if you look here on Moose Runner, which is a test tool I'm developing, we can see here that the Moose Runner API is the base API where the MCP connects and other code could connect. And this makes it possible for other systems to use this test or the MCP in the case of MCP. And doesn't leave with that because inside we have, for example, on the core, you can see the test executor here. It has a test executor API, and inside it has different submodules which are responsible for different parts of the test execution. And the reason why I do this, because if I would have all this in a common folder and AI or a human comes in here, they will need to look through all the different files to understand what is important and what is not important. So for example, if you were to open this test execute API, you can see here that it's very clean. There's not much in it. And the reason for this is because you don't want to bother anyone with information which is not exactly needed for that user. So for example, if you scroll down here a bit, this is a bit too long, I would say, but yeah, sometimes you miss. But for example here, result icon drawer and then result storage. So it's just like picking up and like, oh, and this is because internally this is defined, and this test result storage dot set test result is an internal method. So if anyone were to use this, they would just need to read this, and also good documentation is important. You shouldn't need to go in and understand, oh, what is the need of this? And you can see this is just wrappers because we don't want anyone needing to jump in to read our code inside internal namespace. So if you go and look here, we have the internal here, and it's clear to any AR or human that that's internal parts. If all were spread out as one flat structure, you would just end up needing to go through every file and look through the code, trying to figure out what is needed, what do I need to interface, and so on. And it's very important to keep to one important factor. It's when you go from a module in one system to another module in another system, you need to go through the system APIs, because otherwise, if you start to get outside into other stuff, it's very easy to get it entangled. But with that said, a module may, if it's a one-way communication, so to say. So if you, for example, have a manager and you want to check something in that manager, feel free to do it. But that manager is very important, doesn't need to be aware about this internal module, because otherwise, if there's any connection there between, it gets very entangled and very complex. So yeah, a short little clip, just giving a tip. Remember to use APIs, which is just the wrappers of the internal functionality, and keep all internal inside the internal namespace and an internal folder. But as you can see here, it's also reflected in the namespace structure. Thank you. Bye.